movement in the south being arrested in Aden. Tell us a little bit about what you're hearing about that and how much of a dangerous development that might be to the country, which of course is facing multiple fronts, isn't it?
Yes, the arrest of the activist was confirmed to AlJazeera. He was arriving to the city of Aden. This comes as the government of Yemen and senior officials that I've been talking to over the last few days were telling me that they are ready to tolerate, in a sense or another, some of the pro-democracy momentum building up in the country. However, they consider calls for the south to break away from the north as a red line, and this is definitely rejected by the political establishment. Now, the fear of the ruling party and the elite here in Yemen is that the secessionist movement could take advantage of the situation here in the capital and move the bar a bit higher, asking not only for the south to join the pro-democracy momentum, but to say this is time for us to start thinking about our future and a new southern republic. However, most of the leadership of the secessionist movement is trying to distance itself from that call for pro-independence. They're trying to say that we are part of this general atmosphere of radical change. We are here to say and to make it clear that we will continue our fight with the northerners, with every Yemeni, to see President Ali Abdullah Saleh go and a new atmosphere, a new era usher in here in the Yemen.
A lot bubbling there for Hashim Ahlabara to keep us updated on. Thanks for that. Well, trouble's not just confined to the Arabian Peninsula. Let's go back to North Africa. Calls for anti-government protests also being heard in Morocco this time. This would be demonstrations are being largely organised online, and they include promotional videos like this one. The so-called 20th of February movement is planning rallies in 4 cities on Sunday, which it is billing as a day of dignity. The organisers want King Mohammed to dissolve parliament, hold new elections and hand over some of his powers. Well, Iranian state television news is issuing a warning against opposition rallies due to be held on Sunday. Messages posted on social media site Twitter say internet access has been restricted and there's a heavy police presence in central Tehran. Well, opposition groups have urged their supporters to return to the streets to mark a week since the deaths of 2 people killed in protests in the capital. Well, there's confusion over what's happening to 2 Iranian Navy ships in the Suez Canal. State TV in Tehran says they're already passed through on their way to Syria, but there are contradictory reports to that. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says it's an attempt by Iran to broaden its regional influence. Well, Iranian vessels have not been allowed to sail through the canal since 1979. Let's get more on this from Rawia Raga, who's live for us in the Egyptian capital. So what's the verdict? Have they or haven't they crossed Rawia?
Well, Sami, according to the Director of Transit in the Suez Canal Authority, Engineer Ahmed Al-Manakhli, he confirmed to me an hour ago that no Iranian warships have crossed through the canal neither yesterday nor today. That's neither Saturday or Sunday, in his own words. In fact, he even said that he had not been notified about their imminent arrival anytime soon.
Now, the fact that the Canal Authority has given, at least in principle, Iranian warships permission to cross, is that or can that be construed in any way as a sign of change in the policy of this new, shall we say, system of government that's emerging in Egypt?
Well, it's not particularly, it should not be particularly viewed in that light, Sami, and that's because the Suez Canal Authority has long maintained and is reiterating that position now that Egypt really cannot prevent the passage of any ships through the canal, be it commercial or war-related vessels, because they're bound by international treaties to allow the passage of any ships as long as Egypt is not in a state of war with the country from where those ships belong to. So that is the position that the Suez Canal Authority is reiterating here. The Director of Transit telling me he can confirm that the military rulers, the country's new rulers, have approved the passage of those particular 2 ships. This, of course, particularly is concerning because it does come at a time where there's a lot of changes in the region, as you know, with the toppling of President Hosni Mubarak's regime and the fact that this would be the first time we see Iranian ships crossed through the canal in a long time, Sami.
Rawiya Ragah there from Cairo. We'll stay ahead here on the Al Jazeera News Out. Thousands take to the streets in the US in response to planned budget cuts. Well, Afghan medical officials say at least 40 people are now known to have been killed in Saturday's suicide attack, making it the worst for 8 months. The Taliban says one of its bombers blew himself up at Kabul Bank in Jalalabad. 73 more people have been wounded. The bomber targeted intelligence and security workers collecting their salaries. Meanwhile, a governor in the eastern Kunar province says recent attacks by US-led NATO forces have killed 64 people, including 20 women and 29 children. Well, dozens more wounded are being treated in hospital in Asadabad. NATO says it's investigating reports that 7 civilians were injured in those military operations. Meanwhile, the former head of Afghanistan's intelligence agency has cast doubt over President Hamid Karzai's plan to bring stability in the country. Speaking to Al Jazeera, Amrullah Saleh says President Karzai is making secret deals with the Taliban. Zaina Khoda reports.
He fought the Taliban when he was the head of Afghanistan's intelligence agency for 6 years. He is still fighting the movement even after leaving office. But now it is on the political front. Amrullah Saleh has begun what he calls a grassroots movement. The former spy chief is reaching out, not only to those in his community, the Tajiks, but other ethnic groups as well. It is about trying to forge unity in a polarized country, he says. One of the divisive factors, Karzai's peace overtures to the Taliban, which Saleh described as a recipe for war.
And if they win through the script of democracy, they should be given a space to govern. But we should not make a deal. The deal is dangerous and it will lead us to another civil strife.
The fear here is the Afghan government is desperate to strike any deal with the Taliban and other groups, and they are doing so behind closed doors. Saleh wouldn't be more specific about the alleged deals, but said many Afghans are worried.
My message to President Karzai is very simple. The absolute majority of Afghans want a strong state. You have heard his speeches. When there are blasts in Afghanistan, civilians are killed. He does not attribute it to people who claim we have done it.
This is one of Amrullah Saleh's support base, the Panjshir Valley, the hometown and stronghold of Ahmad Shah Massoud, the assassinated leader of the Northern Alliance, the Tajik force that fought the Taliban. Amrullah Saleh was his close aide.
It's still not clear how much support Saleh has and whether it does come from across the ethnic divide, but he is optimistic.
So we will not remain grassroots forever. This is one day going to be a national level political movement.
National movement, that may be difficult. Ethnic groups vie for political power, which in the past has led to bloody conflicts. But Saleh says that is his goal, because